I'm here with Glenn Jessome, CEO of Silver Tiger Metals. Silver Tiger trades on the TSX Venture under the symbol SLVR and on the OTCQX under the symbol SLVTF. Their current market cap is $55 million Canadian.
Ouch.
Glenn, can you give us a 30-second high-level overview of Silver Tiger Metals?
Look, thank you, first of all, Steve, for having us. Really looking forward to sharing a little bit more about Silver Tiger. We've been in Mexico for a long, long time, our team, our technical team in particular. We built pretty well every project we've touched over 25 years and ended up either being a mine or sold to a major. That's a pretty good track record. We all know the success rates for junior exploration companies is very, very low, far less than 1%, I think. Because of those relationships, and you want to know the journey to the Tiger, we see things because we've been successful. We've worked with the Mexican government, the Mexican people for a long, long time and brought great success and prosperity for them. We're a Mexican company with a small capital raising arm in Canada. That's really the way we look at ourselves. And so we see things. And Tiger was brought to us by our technical team of 30 years. They went and looked at the project and said, Mr. Jessome, you need to get that for us. It wasn't for sale. It was a publicly traded company, but we went to work and were able to purchase that company and delist it for $11 million Canadian. Why? It was because we looked at some drill core. It's because we looked at the technicals, but it was history. There's no new discovery in Mexico, Steve. None. It's either under around the head frame of an old Spanish mine, but more particularly for us old American mines that ran from 1910 to 1930, they all shut. Great Depression. Tiger was that. We got all the mining records for this old mine, 20-year mine life, 1910 to 30. It produced 100 million silver equivalent ounces at an average grade of 2.5 kilos in 10 years. The cutoff grade was 1.2 kilos. They just dropped their tools in multi-kilo ore and went home. And it sat there. And we knew if we drilled north and south and underneath it, it would go well. And a couple of 100 million silver equivalent ounces later and pre-fees almost done, it went well.
Since acquiring the concessions, what have been the key milestones in the project's development? What are the key highlights from 2023?
Well, if you look at 2023, we go back, we started really on this and call it 17, 18. The first part is really, really a lot of work. You need to drill a lot of meters. So we can't just say 2023, because to get to 2023, there was 6 years of drilling. So we've been 125 to 150,000 meters in this thing already. That took a lot of capital. 2023 was a kind of okay, we've arrived. We've drilled all those meters. Not a lot more to talk about. Drill holes are only of any value if you can get to the economic test, the PEA or the pre-fees that says that thing's going to make money. People give you the money because the return is so good. That being said, 2023, we raised last February another $18 million in the bought deal financing. That had brought our total for the 3 years before that to $75 million bought deal financing, which allowed us to tell you what we accomplished in 2023. I think it's very important to know who gave us that money. I consider them very smart. They're my biggest shareholders, and I'm not just saying it because of that. Steve Land at Franklin Templeton, Maria at Sprott Asset Management, Peter Melitas at Merck, Joe Foster at Van Eck, Fabio and his team at Fourth Sail, Ono over at McKinsey. Those are top drawer is the right word, precious metals investors. They've given us that, and they're pleased with where we are. Nobody's pleased with any junior miner or developer in their valuation day. They're just not. They can't be. But they look longer than that. They know their return is when we build the open pit and the underground mine. So 2023, $18 million bought, tough market to culminate the 75 over the last 3 years, and got to work. Finished the work we'd already done. September of 2023, I'm not going to get into all the ounces. We don't have time for that, and your viewers don't care. Let's just call it almost 200 million silver equivalent ounces delivered in a MRE, a mineral resource estimate update. Call it 110 in the underground, 90-ish in the open pit portion of the deposit. Boy, we'd been doing all the work as we get ready to deliver the MRE, because 2 months later, we delivered the PEA on that resource. You can't just do that in 2 months. That's a year's work. So you have to work side by side. And boy, that was a pretty impressive year. PEA, I'm just going to give you a couple of numbers just so it'll catch people's attention. almost a $300 million NAV USD, 56% IRR, payback in 1.7 years, $59 million US investment leads to that return, makes about $500 million over the 10 or so year mine life, USD after tax-free cash flow. So an amazing start. And that first couple of innings of the game that will be El Tigre, if we look at that baseball analogy, the other 7 or 8 innings will be the transition to the permitted underground we have. And we can talk about some of those things.
It's been really impressive, the fact that you were able to raise that money and have such strong shareholders and advance the project to the stage it's at now. From the results of the PEA, like how do they align with your strategic goals and vision for the future of Silver Tiger? Like where do you want Silver Tiger to be in 5 years?
That's a perfect question. So let's look at our, and we can talk, I think we have to talk a little bit, if we're going to do that, about what 2024 looks like already and what it will look like by the end of maybe the year, because you're always moving the project forward. Look, what you said is, and with great respect to all my peers, we watch the market. It's been tough. We raised $75 million for this company, all bought, no warrants, straight up from those people that are very smart, and allowed us to keep going. If you look over since 2020 and you look at who's raised the money since that period of time when the market got a little bit of a bump of good fortune, not a lot's been raised. So a lot of projects have stopped. We like to say, even in the worst of times, get to the point where you're ready to build a mine, because those good times will come. And that's when you're there. So it's been very fortuitous that we had that support, and we've used it very well. What we see right now as the next step is I can't build. Look, I think we have to talk about how we see Mexico, because we've always built mines the same way. We always are working on epithermal systems. In our experience, there's always a stockwork at the top. That's the pit we're talking about. And then you go underground to follow that high-grade silver vein to great depth. Easier mining, pit drives huge cash flow for small investment, because you know what? You need all that to go underground, because underground's hard and it's expensive. So we've always had the same game plan for this project from the beginning. Get the pit, get it done, get the underground ready while you're building the pit. So when that cash flow, $50 million USD a year, free cash flow from El Tigre, just the stockwork portion, you drive it in the underground. So that's the plan, and I'll lay it out here in the next year. Number one, I can't build in a PEA. It was robust. It was beautiful. You're talking $11 silver, or call it $800 gold. Those are your costs. That's the lowest in the, that's lowest in the industry. That's why it generates such great economics I talked about. 2-to-1 strip, high grade for Mexico, 0.7 to 9, where most pits are 0.25 to 0.35. I'm using gold as the equivalent there. So now I need to go, okay, I need to get that $59 million. I need to get there. So the next thing is, as you saw, we put an MRE out in September and a PEA in November. We didn't start the PEA in September after the MRE was out. Started a year before. Same thing with the pre-fees. You've got to do all your work. So last spring, summer, we were starting the drilling for the pre-feasibility study that we will release this summer. So think about that. 30 or 40,000 more meters, all drilled. We got 3,000 left today. It's all bought and paid for. We'll finish that off this summer, come with a PFS. That PFS is what the bankers, and I'm engaged with them, we'll talk about that in a minute, tell me that they will actually lend in on. A lot of times you got to go to feasibility. Feasibility are for some of the bigger banks, especially, the Royals and the Nationals, et cetera, the BMO. We'll use a different tier of lender, very sophisticated resource lender. But why we were able to really hone in on and think we can finance this, and I'm going to tell you why and who told me he thought we could do it in a second, because I need to introduce you to this individual who's now working for us, is the payback period is 1.7 years. That's incredible. Like, you just think about that. You got all your money back, your 59 million USD cash capex in 1.7, and then you're just making money. The banks like to get their money back quick. So let's say they're thinking about, how do I know I'm going to get my money back in 2 years? In pre-feasibility study, maybe I can't. But what we've done is we've got an amazing starter pit. In that pit I talked to you about, it's 50 million tons. The first, call it 10, 11, 12 million tons are in a starter pit in the center, which was absolutely just a gift for us. It's zero strip, and it's almost 1 gram per ton gold on what we saw in the PEA, 80% recovery. So that's why you get that 1.7 year payback. we've taken, as part of the pre-feasibility study, you'll see, most important thing we did was we drilled that entire first 2 to 3 years off. So now we have a measured resource there. So that's really what our lenders will hang their hat on and say, yes, pre-feasibility study is enough that we can fund this and let these guys get to work. So you're going to see that pre-feasibility study. I'm going to tell you what it's going to do. You saw the numbers in the PA. You can go to our website and see all that. But on the pre-fees, we put a press release out. Usually on a pre-feasibility study from PEA, you know this, Stephen, it's your game. You go down because you can't include inferred. So we had about, of that 50 million tons, 10 million tons of that were inferred. We've moved that. We're going to move that all into indicated. That was important. The first 2 or 3 years measured, very important. But really, and I put it in the press release last week, the drilling to infill this has gone very, very well. We think we're actually going to increase the metal and the ore by 15 to 20%. That's incredible. Stay tuned for that. But it's looking very, very well. This pit and the pre-feasibility on it is going to be better than we thought. So that'll allow us to get the lenders to give us the money. You may want to ask me about the lenders or how I think I'm going to fund it, but if you don't, that's fine. But I'm not kind of steering your questions. I feel like I'm dominating this interview. It's your show.
So that's no, that's really great news. And that was my next question is how do you plan on financing the build, and what options are you considering, and when could you generate free cash flow if everything goes according to plan?
Beautiful question. So what we did is, as you see, we're always ahead of ourselves, and you have to be. You can't say, I'm here now I'm going to put out the PFS, and then I'm going to find the people to loan me the money. So what we do is, starting in November, right after the PEA came out, we went to let's call the 5 lenders that we'd like to get the money from. And we met with them, and I met with them again at the BMO conference a couple of weeks ago, just before we went to PDAC, and said, here's what we have. You have to be willing to know that we're going to deliver 2 or 3 years of measured. You know what it's going to look like because you look at it in the PA. And if that's good, then we're going to sign CAs and we're going to put you in the data room. And all, as we do the pre-fees, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, until we release it in summer, you follow along. So we've got 5 in there now. They're following along. They're doing their work. And there was a couple that said, well, we'll get it done and then we'll go in next fall. I said, you know what? That'll be too late for you. So, because I'm going to there's 5 that are in there now that are going to make a decision when we're ready. So that's that process. They're not going to give me 100%. We all know that. Would I push for 60 or 70? That's aggressive. But then we go and look in a better market, a little bit of equity. I mean, I've got some of the streamers chasing me around, and I'm kind of parked out for right now. Not my first choice, but we'll just see where we're going to look. We've raised 75 million for the last 3 years to drill holes from very smart people. Do I lose any sleep at night worrying about getting the $60 million USD to build this? Zero. There, maybe that'll tell the audience something.
Yeah, no, that's great. So now a bit of a tougher question. So navigating the permitting process and ensuring regulatory compliance are critical for the success of this project. Can you elaborate on the current status of permits for the project?
That's a great question, Stephen. And it leads into a segue, if I could, if I had a minute to go there, because as we went through 2024, we stopped at pre-fees, stock work, beautiful. But remember, that's the start for the project. That's the money generator for the underground. So in the underground, and I think we talk about that because it leads into permitting, when we bought the project, the public company, they had basically a permit issued for the underground, for some of the Rasaga tailings, et cetera. And that was important to us. And we've kept that permit and we've kept that current, and we've actually done work to make sure that we're progressing that on the underground. I could go build the underground as a right today. I could go do that as a right today. That's not the right business decision for us to make in our experience. The right way to do with these epithermal systems, flowering epithermal, is stock work, use that cash to go underground. That's how you hit it out of the park. So we're still on that path. But the underground we're not forgetting about. Remember, that's permitted, and that's going to play into the other permit, and I'll come back to that in a minute, leading back to your question. But we're going to drive that underground. There's 110 million ounces already drilled off there. It's beautiful. And that's the first inning. That's 3 or 4 kilometers of 25 kilometers. We'll be drilling El Tigre underground for the next 20 years. We mean that. We know that because we've had 20 or 30-year projects in Mexico. They're still in production to this day. But what we'd like to do now is once we get all the drilling done here, That'll be late into the summer. Next fall, we are going to refocus back to the underground. We didn't forget about it because the results we were getting were incredible. Not only high-grade quartz veins, but if you remember, we discovered a shale zone where we were drilling stuff 10, 20 meters of a kilo. And then that sulfide zone, which we just had a year drilling in, which is already 750 by 300 by 30 or 40 meters of multi-kilo ore in some cases. So we got to get back to drilling that. We're going to do that from underground. We've developed underground into the guts of the old mine. So that'll be 100, 200 meter holes instead of 500 meters. Stay tuned for that in the fall. And once we get that done, we're already doing the metallurgy for that deposit, for the underground. All that work's going on now. Expect a nice PEA as the first economic test on the underground early next year. So you want to see what we're doing. It's not just let's do this. Let's get back to that, which we're already permitted for, and drive it ahead. What was very interesting, and I want to mention a guy's name here. Permitting for the stock work. Francisco Albalez, we hired in May. I need to talk about him. He was a very important hire for the company. He's the builder. The last 12 years in Mexico, he ran Mexico for Argonaut. Nothing in Canada, just those big heap leaches. And I'm talking about, San Agustin, Patala, 40, 50,000 ton per day operations that just made an amazing amount of money. They were open pit, 0.25, 0.35 grade, 5 to 6, 1 to 1 strip. Ours is 2 to 1 and 0.7 to 9. We needed someone with that experience to come in and say, I'm building it. So we got him to agree to leave there in May and come with us. What a coup. Now, he also not only ran those, he permitted them, developed them, built them, and then ran them, and then ran it all for Argonaut for the last 5 years before he joined us in Mexico. So he basically said, here's how we're going to tackle the permitting. We've got an underground permit. So you've got all your environmental approvals for that. You've got your seminar approvals, you've got your cyanide, your Merrill-Crowe, all of that. He said, we're going to take all that and we're going to build our plan and engineer stockwork zone to use all of that. So we actually, in the summer, July, passed, we filed our application to amend our permit to include that. That's going through the process. And basically, we expect, as we always have, to get that permit issued so that we can build this the way we want. Stockwork first, underground second. Do I think I'm going to get my permit issued before this election, which is on June 2nd, I think? No. Do I need it on June 2nd? No. I'm going to need it later next year once we have all our work done. So, that's where we are in the process. There's been a lot of information, let's call it, coming out of Mexico, especially since the election started this year. We all have watched elections. Canada, not very exciting. US, crazy. I'm sorry, I hope the US listeners don't. I mean, it's just, you see it, it's whoa. Mexico's the same, maybe even a higher level. It's very passionate and people are saying things on both sides. We are just going to let that, as we have, how many elections? 6. We've been through 5. So this will be 6. Our team in Mexico. We just got to see what happens in June, and that's coming. If there's any questions about what we think about Mexico, I'd be more than happy to ask. We're not leaving. We're doubling down.
I was going to ask, what impact you think the election will have on the project, if there is a government change or it isn't a government change or leader change.
So here's where we are, and I'll be very, very, very kind of try to put it in different boxes. There are 2 parties. Maybe some people don't know that about Mexico. They just read the headlines or they read some of these. Look, and the news coming out on the internet and social media. And I say I left on my kids because I'm not social media that much. Like they're on it all the time, Snapchat or FaceTime, and they just go crazy on me. Like they just don't even say it. I just embarrass them. But what's out there. So all the information's coming out, and really it's very unfortunate because people will weaponize information. We're now seeing emails coming from our competitors, our peers, not in Mexico, but mining in Mexico is over. You shouldn't put another dollar there. It's terrible. It's being nationalized. They're going to take it over. And oh, by the way, I have these 3 companies in Canada you should put the money into. Come on. So we're in a crazy world. And you know what? We've been just leave it until July, August. That's when we're going to start thinking about it again. But you got 2 women running. AMLO, we all know who he is, I think, not just because of mining, because he's a very populist. He does a lot of talking. He basically can't run again. Just a little education here, because some people don't know. 6-year term in Mexico, one time, no more. So he will retire. He's Moreno. The lady who's been chosen is Claudia, very, very intelligent lady from Mexico City, was the mayor, was part of a team that won the Nobel Peace Prize. And she has now been, like they nominate in the States, she's the nominee for Moreno. And then you have a party on their side made up of a number of parties that have come together, PRI, et cetera, Xochitl is the lady who's leading that. Very much a rags to riches story. An entrepreneur, has done very well in business and now wants to run the country. She's been nominated. So we're going to have a female president. Xochitl is very pro-business. She's an entrepreneur. We don't look at the individual. We look at the party. We think that on the Claudia side, they have some very strong business points also, taking the people out of it. So we're comfortable with either party winning because we've navigated that for almost 30 years. We're in the state of Sonora. The state of Sonora is a pro business state. The governor is Moreno, second year, a 6-year term. He is pro business. And we're very fortunate to be in that state. They've been chosen as the state that's for the offshoring, all of these different things. And we like that state. We think business is going to be always important there. We're part of that business environment. So to a degree, from my perspective, it's going to be a close election. I don't know who's going to win, but no matter which side wins, we'll still do what we've done and navigate in Mexico. I got to tell you something else, and I've been telling this to a lot of people. I think it's important people hear this. All of this noise affects business in Mexico. Some people aren't going to want to be there. Some companies have already failed years ago, nothing to do with this in the mining industry, peers or competitors, and they're just going to go away because they're going to use that as not as an excuse. It's too hard there. You know what? When everybody kind of says, nope, don't want to be here, we're not unhappy about that. Okay. We're doubling down on Mexico. We're not going anywhere. Mexico produces the most silver in the world by far. The world today needs 1.2 billion ounces of silver this year. We're going to produce 800. Mexico makes 150 of the 800. If people think that's going to get turned off, okay, that's their choice. We don't.
So you obviously have some positive thoughts on the silver market. Where do you think the silver price ends up at the end of the year?
I was on a panel at VRIC with all these silver people, and the guy who wrote the book, The Silver Bull, Peter Krauth, and the guy who wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad was up there. All those people. And I was sitting up there. I'm just a simple securities lawyer that understands the mining game that's going to build a silver mine. So they started talking about silver going to 300 and 400. And I said, guys, stop. We've been doing this for 25 years in Mexico. We mine gold at $250 and made money. Okay. We think $25 silver is absolutely incredible. We're not getting any sentiment in the market for that. $2,100 gold. Oh my goodness. When I did my PEA, I'm at 21 and 18. You go plug those numbers into my PEA and I'm not making $500 million. I'm making 800 million. So the price is absolutely fantastic because all we want to do, we win only one way. Forget drill holes. Forget sentiment. We win by building the project. We always have. That's all we think about. So the price is great. Do I think it's going to go higher? I do. And there's reasons why. You asked me, look at the shortfall, 800 to 1.2 billion. That's real. That's not made up. That's real from the Silver Institute. And they want silver. They want solar power. Well, this year, solar power just changed to all the new technologies that you know about, PERC, et cetera, et cetera. They're using 30, 40, 50% more silver because it's reflected. The car business has slowed down electric. It's going to come. I never thought it was going to come as fast. If you see the silver that's used in an electric car, it's nuts. So the demand is just going to go up, electronics, et cetera, et cetera. But here's the crux. Here's the crux. Why is it going to go up? Last year, we got such a thing as inflation, Last year, across the board. First of all, there's 58 silver producing mines, true silver mines. There's all byproduct in the world today. By 2027, there's going to be 42 because every day we mine ourselves out of business. By 2028, 38 left. Think about that. Now, the second thing that I think about is your all-in sustaining costs. Last year, the all-in sustaining cost, we got an inflationary world. First, those 58 silver companies went up by 57% to $16.56. And now the projection is every year it's going to go up by 9%. Do the math. Do you think people 3 years from now, when it's $23 across the board to take it out of the ground, are going to do it for 25? No. So those are the simple things that I look at. All I know is if we're successful in 18 months from now or 20 months from now, I become, what will that be? 43. You're a good place to be in the silver world. So that's how we think.
Oh, that's a great answer. If you can, looking ahead to 2024, if you can just recap what milestones investors can look forward to for this year.
We're going to finish this pre-feasibility study this summer. We'll debut that when we go to Beaver Creek in Denver. That's the plan. It's going to be, I've already told the world in the press release, it's going to be better than most people are thinking. What we're seeing so far, it's incredible. It's just a money generating machine. That's done with a bow on it, ready to build. I'm going to wait as we get that finished into next year, continue to go through the amendment to our permit so that we can start getting at that and mining it. Secondly, and let Francisco Albalaze, the expert, get to work. And he's ready to go. Well, the engineering, everything's done. Never forget the underground. We're going to basically then pivot back as after that's done and ready, say, okay, that 100 million silver equivalent ounces in the underground, it's going to get bigger. We've got to drill more from underground. And when we got everything done and the metallurgy all done, which is being worked on now, we're going to come out with the economic study early next year, the PEA, on the underground, which I'm permitted for. And then, I mean, you can dream, you don't have to dream too much in Technicolor. Pretty quickly after that, that PEA becomes a PFS. And now we're sitting there going, we can build the stockwork when we get the permit. You have the permit for the underground, we'll get at that. But the right thing to do, the way these always should be done, easier stockwork, less capital, drives huge cash flow to go after the underground very aggressively. So, you know, that's the plan. It's all in front of us and we'll deliver those things.
Well, that's great, Glenn. It's been really impressive what Silver Tiger and the company's done up to this point. I just wanted to say thank you for joining us in our first 3L webinar, and we look forward to seeing the El Tigre project advance this year.
Steve, thanks so much for having me and really enjoyed it.
Thank you.